Being a stepdad is harder and more powerful than most people will ever understand. Everyone talks about fatherhood, but few talk about what it really takes to step into a family that wasn't originally yours and still lead with love, strength, and humility. If you don't learn how to handle this role with intentionality, you risk damaging not only your relationship with your stepkids, but your own identity as a man. I'm Andrew Russell, founder of DadderUp, and I'm on a mission to promote and celebrate what it means to be a dad. Unfortunately, there are so many kids of divorce now. I'm not even sure what the percent is, 50%, 70, 80% of potential marriages end in divorce now. Something really real time with these accurate facts. So it was similar to most of these children. Me and my brother, we were actually as well product of divorce. So with that said, I had the huge benefit. I mean, listen, you don't have the opportunity to pick your step-parents. You don't have the opportunity to really pick your parents. My stepfather, John, was exceptional at being a stepdad. And I say that because he came into me and my brother's life at around 11-ish, I believe. And we're very different. You know, he's Italian, he cooks, he's great at gardening. He's just a cool guy. He's great into music, or great in the music space. And me and my brother, large individuals, football, baseball, all the sports, eating all the food. And my stepdad, he had 2 daughters, which I now consider my sisters. Not really into like the whole stepsister game. They've been my stepsisters for 30 years. Like, really? But with that said, he was used to 2 little girls. Here come, me and my brother, 11 and 9, 12 and 10, big bruisers, eating the guy out of house and home right away. So we had to get used to it. But you know what he did? He showed up. He was intentional. He tried. It wasn't easy. He kind of came to us, met us where we were, between the sports and just all the different things. And I realized it's just such a weird dynamic. His name is John. We call him John. Meanwhile, turns out, what if I told you, my stepfather was head of the music department in an amazing district in New York. He then turned into a principal, I believe, and then an administrator. He became one of the most revered. I went to his retirement party. One of the most revered administrators in all of that school district's history. The president, I think, somewhere in our basement, in the house we grew up in, there's a letter from the president saying he did a great job. But what did I call him? John. What did everyone else at his work? And everyone is Mr. whatever his title is going to be. But I called him John. How does that make any sense? So I just felt, and I've always felt growing up since, I'm talking decades ago, there's something about that whole, step-parenting space that there's a lot to it. I don't think there's anything out there in the world, in society, that really, helps that specific community, that being a step-parent, someone marrying into someone else's biological family and becoming, a married step-parent, to help them be intentional, to give them kind of an overview, maybe coming from someone who experienced it. I think it's so important. So recently, especially with rolling out this community, this movement called DadderUp that I'm so excited about to hit this world and to hit the, being a present father space. And of course, we're focusing on brand new dadders. So where did this all come from? All this introspective, thinking about my past, thinking about the step parenting space specifically. Well, of course, we're so excited to roll out DadderUp, which is completely changing the game on what it means to be a present intentional dad in this society. But there's so many types. There's brand new dadders, people who maybe their partner is pregnant, they're about to become a dad, or dadders where their children are between the ages of 0, which is the newborn, and 9, or maybe 10 plus, or of course, a huge demographic, which is super underserved. There isn't a ton of information out there, let alone communities, groups, access to other people going through the same thing. We call them flex dads. I'm trying to completely change the game as it relates to being a step parent, because right now I feel in society, there's a black cloud on what it means to be a step parent. It's not celebrated. It's not something that people aspire to. When they do it, it's kind of like you feel like you're on an island and you're just second place. So we are changing what we're looking at as stepdads. We're calling them flex dads. But I felt like, based on my childhood, based on what I experienced, based on the amazing man that my stepfather is, my flex dad, the type of man that he is, I felt this has to be a huge pocket on the DadderUp side, and it's just something that has to be communicated, because what did he do? It's just, no one's out there talking about this, whether you're a step parent, an adoptive parent, you show up. It's hard, right? Because you're not the bio parent, right? But you show up, and you have to show up every day. You have to command respect like my stepfather did, but you don't just get it overnight. These are all the things that are very difficult, but I am blessed to have had him in my life. But I am certainly blessed that, for whatever reason, I was blessed with him being my step parent, where he showed up as an intentional, present, patient, believe it or not, Super patient stepfather. And that's what I feel should be the example of all step parents. And on top of that, it's something that within the DadderUp community, this is something that we're really going to focus on, giving flex dads or stepdads the opportunity to really lean in and have something intentional every single day to work on their craft. But of course, I hear so many people saying right now, hey, Andrew, I'm just a stepdad, not the bio dad. Why even try? Come on, guy. Really? Just think about it. If you're dating someone and then obviously you become very serious and that person has children and then you decide to marry them, you should celebrate that moment. You should be super excited, especially if they have stepkids and you're now a flex dad. So why even try? Why do anything if you're not going to try? But you are going to play an integral, I can tell you from experience, I had a step parent from, around 10, 11 years old. And my stepfather played a huge part in my life. Just like if you're listening and you're a step parent, without a doubt, non-negotiable, 100%, this is a fact. You will play a huge part in your stepkids' lives. So why even try? Like not only do you have to try, you have to be intentional and you have to work on it every single day. But of course, hey, Andrew, look, it's not easy. Their bio dad is around. He's a good guy. He's still in the picture. You should want that. You should, as a step parent marrying in, you have to be on the same page as the biological father. Otherwise, it's always going to be a rough ride. But why would you not be on the same page? Putting emotions aside, if the person that you're marrying and you're becoming a step parent had a child and there's a present father, that's a blessing for the child, right? It's a blessing for the kid. And you coming into their life is only a sweetener. It's not something that's going to make it worse. But you have to be on the same page as a biological father, because think about it. Most marriages or most people that have children, if they got divorced or they're not together and there's, custody orders and all those different things, at best, typically, the guy gets 50% custody, which means half the time they're with their mom, which means if you're marrying the mom, you get the kid half the time. And not only that, typically guys get a little less than 50%, so you might even have them more. So not only is it important for you to be on the same page with biological dad, you might actually be there in that child's life on the day-to-day more as a percent perspective than the actual biological father. And of course, typical, incorrect framing, incorrect headspace, which is why I'm changing the narrative into the flex dad space. No more stepdad stuff is, hey, Andrew, I'm just never going to be accepted. Well, why do anything in life if before you even start, you're just negged out and thinking of the worst? I mean, you don't go into a job interview thinking, I'm just not going to get the job. You don't go to the gym thinking, I'm just never going to be able to do any of the lifting and the various weights. Going into a diet saying, by tomorrow, I'm just not going to do the diet. It's just typical negative head speak. So like in anything in life, right? In personal well-being and business, losing weight, your job, your kids, whatever it is, you have to be positive, because guess what? If you think it will come into reality, and I promise you, you have to try, because the kid will accept you, whether it's a stepson, a stepdaughter, whatever it is. You have to try. It's not going to come easy. I'm not sitting here telling you I have a cheat code for you to go from A to B, instead of the long journey from A to Z, just right away, boom, kid respects you and likes you, and you're basically BFFs. It does take time, but anything in life is worth waiting for and worth putting in the work. And I can say from personal experience with my stepfather, it was years and years of building a relationship, of him showing up, so you can do the exact same. All right, guys, I'm going to talk about 4 very specific themes around being a step parent. I'm going to talk about all 4 of them and what to kind of navigate through in each to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. And in the step parent game, you're slaying it each day, day in and day out. Before I do, make sure you go in the description, click the link, join the DadderUp community. So I've created a movement that completely redefines what it means in the society to be a present, intentional father, showing up for your kids and what that means. Something to be celebrated with a community of amazing dadders, right? Make sure you go in the description, click the link. It's not just about the community and the dads. It's also about every single day being intentional, where we give you daily prompting of an amazing thing to do based on your kid, how old they are, if you're a flex dad or a stepdad versus an actual dad. So, and again, we're here celebrating being a stepdad. So make sure you go in the description, click the link, and join DadderUp. It is a movement completely redefining what it means to be an intentional, present parent. The first talking point is being present and earning it. Earning the title of being a step parent, earning the title of now what I call being a flex dad. But it doesn't come easy. You have to be present and you have to earn it. So I could just tell you, from my personal example, share some stories about what it was like for me growing up. I can tell you specifically, played a lot of sports, and if you guys know anything about sports, I'm sure most of you do, especially my kids. My kids are playing soccer every other week. I mean, this weekend coming up, I think there's 4 games for each of the days. So there's a lot of sports. So you know what's great? You know what's great is that if you marry into a family and you're blessed, right? Some people look at it as a hindrance, right? Oh my God, my kid has so many games this weekend. It's not a hindrance. You are blessed and you are completely lucky, parent, if you were to ask me, that your kid is talented enough and gifted enough to give you the opportunity to witness them in their sports journey. It's super cool. But with that said, you have to show up, right? And you can say, well, it's not really my kid. If you go into any type of marriage or relationship and the step kid, in your head, you as the flex dad, and it's so important what you do. And we talked about it before. You're potentially there more than the bio dad, living with that actual child. If you're just going into it thinking, well, it's not my actual kid, well, I'm not really sure what you're doing. You have to come into it and celebrate it, but also know it's a lot of work. Like anything in life, it's a lot of work. So just because it's a lot of work doesn't mean it's bad. It's a process. It's just like you fine tune a craft. You want to learn guitar, it's a lot of work. My oldest daughter was learning flute. I heard her on day one, brutal. Now she's really good. Again, it's a lot of work. So you being around a child, influencing them, it should be a lot of work because it's super, super important. But you have to show up. So make sure you're present at whatever it is. There's nothing, and I don't care what they say or the faces they make, your stepchildren. There's nothing that's better than seeing their flex dad show up, love on them for whatever it is, right? Graduating third grade, graduating high school. For the successes and the struggles, showing up and being there for them as an individual for the struggles. That type of stuff matters. I can tell you, I played a lot of sports, and my stepdad, who was an amazing guy, played all sorts of instruments. He taught me how to cook, which is super cool. Nothing like learning how to make a meatball from an Italian parent, right? Everyone's got their best meatball, but, he came and watched me play football, and I played football, up until my 20s, basically. And when he showed up, I'm not going to tell you he knew much about football, but he was there. He was present. He, kind of made it into a joke. He did say to punt it on third down. True story. A little embarrassing, but regardless, he showed up. He cared. He was always on time. And that type of stuff, I will remember the rest of my life. It's always going to resonate in my brain that when people, as an example, how did I feel? How did I feel when he showed up? I felt great. I felt appreciated, felt loved, felt respected. These are things that children have to feel. So you always have to show up and make sure that you're present. The second important piece is you have to have a unique relationship with your stepchildren, meaning you can't just hide behind the person that you married and the relationship kind of goes through them. That's not unique. That's not personal. You build a personal relationship. If you're at a job and you want a relationship with your boss, do you go through their secretary? No, you have to build a relationship with the boss. You have to do the thing, right? You have to get to know the boss. You have to talk to them, maybe grab a steak and a beer after work. Whatever it is, you have to build those relationships. So the same thing, as you can see, guys, it's work, right? What's the common theme here? If you're going to be blessed enough to be a flex dad or a step parent, it is work. So what is work? Direct to the person and build a relationship. What does your step kid into? Are they artsy? Are they into sports? Are they into video games? Do they feel comfortable when they're playing video games, communicating to you? Are they into something else? Maybe they're into AI at this point. Who knows? They want to start a business. Maybe they're into something completely different, but you'll never know until you try. And it is your job as a step parent to build that relationship, a one-on-one, not through their parent, their biological parent or parents. You have to build that relationship because guess what? That's going to give you the opportunity to really have a successful longevity play of building a true deep connection. You have to have that one-on-one connection. I can tell you, I was able to build a relationship with my stepfather, taught me some gardening stuff, which is cool. It sounds hokey. It's actually not, right? You got basil and tomatoes and all these cool things. What bad comes out from learning how to do that stuff and how to cook? And then that translated into not just like, a basic dish, really cool dishes. So I can say comfortably, not only am I a grill master, I also can cook cool Italian dishes. And that's specifically because of him. He was also outstanding in music. So I built a relationship. I played saxophone. He played saxophone. So we had a really good relationship that spoke through music. Now my kids would love for him to teach them piano. Unfortunately, I can't do the two-hand thing, although saxo is pretty good. And he's starting to do that. So I can say specifically some of this stuff, more unique me and him. Sure, my mom was around, very present, big personality, huge heart, but she didn't get in the way of my relationship with my stepdad. And that's why I have a strong one with him, even to today. Now, the third piece, remember, guys, it's not all bubblegum and rainbows. At some point, you have to be a parent. Now, parent, it's like, would you rather be loved or feared? Machiavelli, right? And there's so many cool movies around that, right? The Bronx Tale, Calogero or C. And of course, there was Sonny, right? Sonny had 5 fingers. We only talk with Tree. I think that's the line. He was, teaching the kid all sorts of bad stuff, right? And so it was like, who's the sucker? The father's the sucker, Or is the gangster the sucker, right? The working man was really the thing. The working man's the sucker, but that's really the easy way out. So as you can see, what's the theme there? It's like and they talk about in the movie, Machiavellian, an old book from hundreds of years ago, The Prince. Is it better to be loved or feared? So the same thing, if you're coming into a marriage and you have children that are now your stepchildren, at that period, it's so much easier to be their friend, right? Anything in life, it's just easier to be their friend and then hold them accountable and be, quote unquote respected, feared. So it's just something to talk about now where you can't just go into it and just lead with the friend vibe. You can't leave it up to their parent, to the mother to be the authoritarian. And they're the one that comes down on the kid and you're always there, kind of have their back and be the friend. First of all, it's not effective parenting. You definitely have, they say pick a parent strategy and then just like roll with it. It's the same thing being a step parent, married to someone with their kids. You have to be on the same page. You can kind of play off each other in a negative way where they'll go to the mom first. And if they don't get their way, then they go to you. Typically that's not really the theme when I talk to step parents across the country. That's not really what the stepdad or the flex dad is actually doing. You can't lead too much with love, right? You have to, and that's how you get respect. Because you didn't marry someone just to be someone's friend, right? Just be a stepkid's friend. A flex dad is someone that commands both respect and loves on these kids. A flex dad will show up every single day, be intentional, whether it's your bio kid, your stepchild, whoever it is, you got to show up, you got to be intentional, you got to try every day. But it doesn't mean that they can walk all over you or you're just their friend and you're living in the friend zone and you don't hold them accountable for things they do and they don't show respect to you. So just make sure you understand that, yes, sometimes people take the easiest path of resistance from point A to point B. It might be faster to just become their friend. And now they're like your bro if it's a boy, or the girl is like, kind of like stepdad or flex dad's little girl. But unfortunately, to gain and command respect, you have to not just be their friend. You have to parent them. You have to, enforce rules, especially with their actual biological parents, because that's what over the long term will get you the best relationship with them. And it has to start definitely on day one. And of course, the fourth in a society of instant gratification is patience. Unfortunately, guys, there is no, code we can crack here. You can't crack the code, just like throw $100 in some kind of a crypto, goes to the moon, you make $1 million, right? You hear about kids like that do this all the time. The same does not happen becoming a flex dad or a stepdad. The same thing does not happen when you do that. And then all of a sudden overnight, the crypto goes to the moon, and now the job is super simple. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's work. It's work. It's day in, day out. It's trials. It's tribulations. I wouldn't say it's blood, but it's blood, sweat, and tears, because it's difficult. There'll be a lot of, because put yourself in the youngster's shoes. It's a lot of stuff going on in society, right? Parents are divorced. Dad might not be there. It's a lot. The child is dealing with a lot. So with what they're dealing with, naturally, there might be some stuff, some mud they sling at you, and you have to have a thick skin. So, coupled, I should say, with patience, you have to have a thick skin, because so many times kids say things they don't mean. I mean, I could tell you with my kids, my youngest especially, sometimes she says things, doesn't realize, doesn't know what she said. She's young, little brain, right? And then they apologize, they realize, you hug it out, but just you have to have that thick skin, and you have to have patience. I can tell you from my personal story, probably took years of building that relationship with my stepdad, all the home run derbies he did, right? All the games he showed up to, all the times that I was a bad kid. I was not the best kid, just like so many entrepreneurs were not good kids. I mean, Dan Martell, read his book, amazing book, and he talks about his childhood. Sounds like he wasn't the best child, did a lot of things that were wrong. Same thing with your boy, Andrew. I definitely put my mom and my parents through hell. But guess what? He still showed up. He still had my mom's back, and he had the patience. And it took years of positives. I did very well in school. I was very successful as an athlete in all those years, which is cool. I can say that now. My kids are very good at sports. It's great watching them. Of course, it's just great to see them involved. But when your kid is great at it too, you're blessed, you're lucky, and it's super cool to watch. So they had that, but they also had the negative, right? Acting out in school, saying things I didn't mean, whatever it was. So just make sure you understand the fourth and probably the most important piece here is not only do you have to have the patience as a flex dad, you have to have thick skin, because guess what? A year is 365 days. And although you may crush it as a stepdad every day, you probably aren't doing the best job every single day. And that's fine. Nobody bats 1,000 as a parent. I certainly don't. I definitely try to show up and be intentional every day. But I am an entrepreneur. I own businesses, right? I have the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial lifestyle. I work in the mortgage space. I don't have to tell you what that is like. It's pretty brutal. That's why I have no hair. But truthfully, there are days where I'm not the best version of myself. And this is the same thing, obviously, as a step parent, but it's also the same thing as your step kid. They're not always going to be who you want them to show up as. You have to have patience, and the thick's going to understand out of 365 days, there's going to be a couple where Mighty Casey strikes out and loses the game. And that's on both sides of the fence, both as a step parent and also a step kid. And that's okay. But just make sure you go into it knowing this. And if you do that, you're set up for success. So if any of this stuff resonated, all this great stuff around being a step parent, about now what I'm calling as a dad, a man being a flex dad, if any of this resonated about being a flex dad, make sure you go in the description, click the link, join DadderUp, where we're completely redefining, we're creating a movement of what it means to be an intentional present parent. Specifically, one of our groups as the Flex Dads, you'll have a community and a group of guys you can lean into, because unfortunately in society, what do they say, men? Man up, figure it out. Well, guess what? Being a step parent, being a Flex Dad, you don't just figure it out. I don't even know if ChatGPT can give you the best way to do it. You're living it every single day. It's difficult. You're dodging landmines, and it's tough out there. So what helps as you're going through that journey? You're leaning into other guys that are going through the same thing, and that's what we offer in DadderUp. So make sure you go in the description and click the link and join the #1 community that's going to take over the world as it relates to being a present intentional dad, specifically as well. Part of our community being a flex dad. Well, not only will you have other guys to lean into, we call them the Tatum, together each dad achieves more. Not only have the Tatum to lean into during the ups and the downs and the lows being a flex dad, you also have daily intentional prompting where it's going to tell you, hey, today you should go home and tell your stepchild what it was like the first day you met them, see how they felt, and then kind of roll into the next day. We're going to give you daily snackable ways for you to improve yourself as a step parent, so make sure that you do that. If this hit home, the journey doesn't stop here. Keep becoming the dad you were meant to be, and make sure you watch our next video, Leading with Love, the Fatherhood Journey. Let's Dad.